All right, so we live. All right, so what is up, everybody? I'm here with my man Cordele in Detroit, and we pretty much just want to talk to y'all. We're gonna talk a little bit about business. It's not fitness related, but y'all know I love business. I'm very passionate about business because I think that business is what moves people forward. What's going on, man? You doing all right?
I'm doing good, man. First off, I just want to say, thank you so much for even having me, man. Having this opportunity and this platform to just kind of speak our thoughts, on the values and things that we believe, and just having the chance to pass it on to other people. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
For sure. So you dropped the camera.
Oh, yeah, let's go. It should be good.
So I had saw Cordele, he had passed across Instagram and stuff, and I was on Instagram swiping one day, and then I saw he was talking about business. He was talking about systems. And for those of you that not know, I've read tons of books. I didn't read my first book until I was 22, which I'm not really ashamed to say because I probably done read a lot more books than most people watching this now. You get bit by that entrepreneurial bug. But I've read like hundreds of books, but I saw you talking about systems and about how people, when they go into business and stuff, how they need a system. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, absolutely. I don't know. I'm not sure if you ever heard the name Dan Locke, but Dan Locke, he's a famous entrepreneur, really doing his thing in the digital marketing space. But he talked about the fact that, if you can't walk away from your business for at least 30 days and still be generating the same amount of revenue as when you left, or if not more, then you don't really have a business. You just have an expensive hobby, right? So McDonald's, let's talk about McDonald's being the king of systems, right? The reason why McDonald's can confidently charge you $1 million for one of their franchises is because they know exactly how much money that system is going to generate you. Whether we drop that system over here in Hong Kong, whether we drop that system here in New York, the experience is going to be the exact same, from the brick layout to the way that the cashier greets you, to the way that you handle your food. All of that is going to be consistent no matter where that system is implemented. So when you walk into a McDonald's franchise, you can ask for the owner, but they probably won't be there because they don't have to be there. So when you have a system, you as the owner can step away from all operations, whether it be marketing, advertising, or hunting for new business. You can step away from all operations, and that business still, generates revenue. So, me starting out early, like in the e-commerce space, me and some buddies of mine, we decided to start an Amazon store. And it actually did really well, a lot better than we was expecting. Our product made it on Rachel Ray, right? But what got challenging after we had that national exposure, us trying to work 9-to-5 jobs, but come home and respond to customers and package items and send stuff out, it just wasn't efficient enough. So we like, wait a minute, something is missing here. And that's when we realized we needed a system to be more efficient, with our product and how we delivered that, because we cared about the way our clients viewed us out there in the marketplace. So a successful system is really just you care about your clients more. You care about the efficiency at which you can deliver your product, and just deliver on your workflow ultimately.
I often tell people, like, especially like my clients and stuff like that, especially when I was like getting started, and I'm still getting started too. I've only been in business 18 months, but it's almost like building a human being, because it's not a quick process. It's not like you just like, okay, I'm gonna write down the system. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You start, the system breaks. You start, the system breaks. You start, the system breaks. You continue to keep tweaking and polishing that system.
Turning those knobs, right?
What do you think it is that this a mindset shift that keeps most people back from being able to see and learn about systems? You know what I'm saying? Because like we were discussing before we got on here, most people, like you were saying, have an expensive hobby. What do you think it is that can't allow them to be able to see, okay, I need a system. I need to, what's the mindset shift?
Honestly, Josh, I think it's selfishness. I think it's greed. I think it's selfishness and greed. When I worked with this business owner, he had an auto transport business, so he transport cars from state to state for you. I worked with him. I was helping him build a website, and I was just kind of giving him pointers on how he could, just be a more efficient business owner. And pretty much he wasn't having it. He's like, look, I'm gonna run my business how I run it. You just build a website, worry about the website. So I was like, hey, that's completely understandable. But I saw his downfall because he was worried about too much. As a one-man army, he was just worried about way too much. And then he used his brother as an example. He was like, now my brother, he liked to outsource stuff to other people, but that gives up too much money, and I don't like giving up my money. Those were his exact words. That's why I said it's a level of selfishness. You want, you want all the credit for yourself sometimes. Like, hey, I built this. This is my business. I run the show here. Sometimes, we're afraid to kind of like delegate that work. But in order to be a successful business owner, you have to be a person who's able to delegate. That's just the bottom line. You know what I mean? And the thing about delegation and why you compare systems to like the human body is because that's how nature works. Nature is a system within itself, right? Like,
Change, yeah.
Like the reason why I don't have to control my subconscious mind, it's gonna work itself. It's so I don't have to do that. I can offload that work or delegate that to my subconscious, so I can consciously focus on something completely different. You know what I mean? So I think it's, like I said, I think it's just selfishness, wanting everything to, just run through you, not wanting to really include other people and give other people a chance. So, and there's also lack of information. So like you haven't really figured out what happiness is yet if you want to be the only one running your show, right? So like, like if I'm always at work or always just involved in the business itself and not working on the business, then that takes away from like my personal time or my family time. And I think ultimate happiness is being able to do what you want to do. And if I'm a barber and I'm the only barber and I got 50 clients just on my head, like I gotta take care of my clients, right? You don't want to disappoint your clients because they pay the bills. So it's like, so it's about understanding what you want out of it at the end of the day. If you're looking for more balance, then systems is the way to go.
So for clarification for people, because I don't want people to get too confused too, because when you first start, you're not going to be able to have that balance, right? You gotta work real hard to be able to create that system.
Exactly.
Right. So, and I think it's interesting you say that, because when I first got into training and stuff like that, being a personal trainer, I had the hardest time making that mindset shift. It's like you're talking about the subconscious, because you're hardwired to think, okay, I don't want to give up none of my money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm giving money to him, I'm giving money to her.
Right.
But we live in a capitalistic country. The world is kind of capitalistic. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's just like, I had the hardest time being all like, I'll be thinking, I'm just like, well, no, I don't want to do this because, well, I'm just like, well, hold up, wait. You know what I'm saying? And I just have so much mental rewiring that I had to do. And people used to often ask me, why is it? It's because I start to tell people I am not a trainer. I am an entrepreneur that conducts training. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
To make money. And I do that by delivering you guys value. And a lot of people couldn't wrap their heads around that, and I had the hardest time doing that, because it's just like, I had to understand that, like you were saying, experiencing true happiness is not only for me giving my clients value, but also other people that might graduate college, other people that I might know, taking family members. You know what I'm saying? You might have a cousin or something like that that's struggling at their job, and you can start to outsource, you know what I'm saying, $100 a month, $400 a month. You're starting to pay them. And then all of a sudden you start to build this web. But a lot of people can't get their heads around the fact that, you can't do it alone. And if you do it alone, you're going to get crushed, because you have, like, if you have 10 people, you're going up against 10 people. One person's doing, digital marketing. Another person is handling, the accounting. Another person's handling the operation. You know what I'm saying? All these different things. And you over here trying to just, work in the business. That makes it really difficult. So I myself, even after I told you the book, The E-Myth, even after I read that, I was still, subconscious programming would still be operating in the mindset of an employee. Like, okay, me. Then I had to start thinking like, okay, hold on, wait. And I think the perfect word for people to understand is leadership. I think leadership is what's going to create that, because leaders, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've heard of like Tony Robbins videos and stuff like that before. He talks about a leader is pretty much a hero, and hero is like, you're a servant. You're a servant to the people that come to your business, whether they be your employees, whether they be your, customers, things of that nature. So yeah, but okay. So you said that you felt like he was just pretty much like, nah, I don't want to get none of my money up.
Yeah, it was he wanted to hold on to like most of his capital. He didn't want to delegate that, that revenue to make his life a lot easier, because if you're a one-man show, then you the guy got to put out all the fires. And if you constantly putting out fires, then that just takes away from your level of efficiency from all the other angles, because it's more than one aspect of business. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to find what area in the business fascinates you the most or gives you the most fulfillment. And, for me starting out, I wanted to be I wanted to, have my own digital marketing agency. I wanted to help business owners, market themselves in better fashion on social media. So when I moved out to Texas, I met a business owner who had a real good foundation over in Austin, Texas. He just had no online presence. So I was like, I think I could actually help you. And he actually gave me a small budget to work with. And, I built him a website. I built his social media pages. Actually hired a local videographer in the area to shoot him a quick brand video to tell his story, give a snapshot of his story. So we posted on the website, put some advertisement dollars behind it. And long story short, man, I changed this guy's whole life. Like, I still have access to his social media from my phone. And every day this guy gets slammed with business. And that's a good problem to have. But if you're a one-man show, then,
that's a bad problem to have, especially if you can't rewire your brain to see what's going on. Because I actually had because in the fitness industry, our time of the year is the New Year's. And I had a really big pop-up of business. And it was a success, but it wasn't as big of a success as it could have been, because I was still in that mindset of, oh man, how am I going to handle this? You know what I'm saying? Instead of being like seeing the opportunity for what it is, like, okay, I can bring somebody else there. You know what I'm saying? They help me. Right. But so when we're talking about systems, to elaborate a little bit more, are we talking about people, technology? Who do we get to run these systems? Like you said, you had an e-commerce. So
remember I said, look, I wanted to do digital marketing first, but that experience that working with the guy in Austin, the guy who owned the bakery, working with him gave me insight on what that could be like. So like I said, I was building his websites, I was keeping his social medias updated, I was creating his Facebook and Instagram ads. I was just doing way too much. And so, like, when it came to try to, like, bring other clients on board, it was just too much work for me. So I'm like, this is impossible. How can I possibly be successful unless I'm charging hundreds of thousands of dollars for this service? So that's when it really hit me. Like you asked, was it a combination of people and technology? It's all of that. It's all of that encompassed. And it's using it in a strategic way where your product or service can be delivered more efficiently. So one thing I did to make his system more efficient is, I created him an autoresponder on Facebook. So instead of him having to respond to clients and give them quotes, I created an autoresponder that looked for frequently asked questions and give certain responses for him. And that just made his life so much easier. So he got a small glimpse himself into how certain systems can make his life a lot easier. So, but it's a combination of all of that though.
Combination of everything.
When it comes to making that mindset shift though, I can't say exactly what it was for me. I think just being in the field and like being overwhelmed with work was the shift. It was what shifted. And it's like, wait a minute, because for a minute I was thinking about quitting. Like, I can't do this. This ain't and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm just doing it wrong. So it's like, it's a matter of patience, because if you're a nobody, you're not just about to build a system overnight, because this system stuff costs money to operate. You need money is the fuel for the system.
That's true.
Like Bill Gates, as the founder of Microsoft, he had to pay his employees, so he knew he was very strategic. So he saved up a year's worth of income for his employees before he even hired anybody. Which is very strategic. So you need to be able to pay these people first, and then try to create a system. So money is the fuel for your system.
Money is the fuel for the system. I like that. So when you were saying that you pretty much were overwhelmed and stuff like that, have you heard of this dude named Pejman Gamadimi?
Never heard of him.
So this is something for I've mentioned this in other videos too. I Create Millionaires. The name of his book is Third Circle Theory. All right, and you're talking about the mindset shift. He was talking about there's 3 circles that people operate in. The first circle is whatever circumstance you pretty much are born in, whether it be, in poverty, whether it be middle class, whether it be, wealthy. And it talks about pretty much how in the first circle, right? The first circle is pretty much, that's how your subconscious mind, what it hears, whether it be like the Robert Kiyosaki type deal where your dad is saying, I can't afford it, or whether your dad is saying, well, okay, son, how can you afford it? You see what I'm saying? So exactly that starts, where you're at. He talks about the second circle, and he talks about pretty much how when you get in the second circle, it might be you go from, where I'm from, North Carolina, to California, you start seeing different people, you see what I'm saying, that grew up completely different than you. Right. And they're just kind of saying stuff like, when you used to people saying, I can't afford it, And you know what I'm saying? You got somebody else that, they don't have any money, but they sitting there saying, well, how can I afford it? And it
Right.
starts to make you think differently. But pretty much in the book, he was talking about how, we think that successful people are like from another planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes they have the exact same opportunity, meaning situational. Like they might be in the exact same situation as you, but they just see it completely different because of the fact that they have more, experience, or they might have came from somewhere else. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
kind of ties into, you're saying that frustration, like, how can I do this? Or, you might fail a couple of times, and then all of a sudden you get put right back in that same situation as somebody that's like completely brand new. And
Right.
then like, your brain is starting to connect the dots, and you just kind of like,
Exactly.
okay, you see what I'm saying? So
So
I
that's
think
kind
that's,
of,
yeah,
not
go
to
ahead.
cut you off, but that's kind of what Robert Greene hit on, in the book
Mm-hmm.
Mastery that he wrote. He said that failure is it's a guidance mechanism. It literally
Mm-hmm.
tells your brain what's not being done correctly so it can make certain adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Edison said that, failure is the foundation of your success.
That's
Like,
true.
successful people aren't from other planets. They just people who had the nerve to go out there and fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So, and like, so when you hear about failure, what do you think? Like, because I think a lot of people think that it means like massive failure, like, year setback failure. And I used to think that too, but I think I honestly, through my experience now, I think failure is basically like, okay, I tried to run this marketing campaign, I
Yeah.
failed. You know what I'm saying? But I used to think, I think that partially comes from where, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That whole first circle, that mental rewiring, until I
Yeah.
actually had the courage one day to step out on my own and actually try it. Like, okay, let me have the courage to do it and see what this is all about.
Right.
But my mental rewiring before I got into business was like, okay, anybody that starts a business is gonna get shot. And like you said, you basically shooting yourself in the head. Like, it's
Right.
completely impossible. Why would anybody ever do it? And I
Right.
used to think like, oh man, so failure is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm like 20. I started my fitness studio when I was 23.
Okay.
Basically had no money. Basically went from working in a park with 2 workout bands, and then I went over the next 9 months. I was able to get into a studio.
Okay.
But I remember I used to think like I was just so scared. Like I remember I used to sit in there. I had no equipment, and I'd be sitting in there. I'd be all like, oh snap. So you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like if I fail, I'm gonna be like taking back 5 years and like this whole like
Right.
And I think
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Like a lot
Like
of
you
people think
jump
it's
back
like
in
that,
time or
and
something.
it can be like that. But I think you listen to Myron Golden.
Say that again.
You listen to Myron Golden.
I haven't heard of him.
He talks about, I think failure can be like that, but he always says your level of success or whatever happens in your life will never be greater than your expectation. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, what do you think about when you think about failure?
So when I think about failure, I think about a comma afterwards, right? When a sentence is done, it typically ends in a period. But if failure was a sentence, it wouldn't end in a period. It would just be a comma. It's just a halt, you know what I mean? Because the sentence is going to keep running on. So when I think of failure, it's just a pause. It's like, okay, are you going to press play again or what? That's simply what it is. So it's like I was one of those people just campaigning to get the word failure just throughout our vocabulary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Thomas Edison, who was a mentor to Henry Ford, obviously Henry Ford is a staple here in Detroit. But, Edison was his mentor, and he tried to literally convince this man that there was no such thing as failure. It's no such thing. It doesn't even exist. He was like, that's why he made the famous statement, I didn't, fail 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 ways not to do that.
Not work. Yeah.
And that was just the most optimistic point of view that I've ever heard in my life. So, I'm almost an advocate for getting that word, just completely tossed out of our vocabulary, dude, because it makes people think that they did something wrong or they did something bad. Nothing bad is happening. This is actually a very good thing, which is why Robert Kiyosaki talked about failing forward faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you read all his books? Most of them?
I haven't read all his books. I read Before You Quit Your Job and Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay. I was reading Retire Young, Retire Rich, and he talks about that too. He's basically saying like school does that. He says basically it's just like when you don't pass a test, that you know what I'm saying, that structure in this school is like from 5 to basically some people 17, 18 years. So that's, you know what I'm saying, you're looking at 12 years of like mental rewiring. And then you got college after that if you go to college, which I went to college. I didn't really have the best of time in college because I think I was my subconscious was starting to be woke to what was going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? I started to see things, for what they are. But he talks about basically, yeah, that mental rewiring is like you pretty much have that same song playing over and over in your
Right.
head. That, if I didn't get, this, if I didn't get at least a 77, then I can't go on to the next grade. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? When that
Right.
really has nothing to do with, you know what I'm saying, what, and I forgot the name of that scientist. What's that dude's name? But he was basically saying how smart people think and how resourceful people think. He's basically saying you have a person and they say it's a spelling bee. They say, how do you spell cat? And he's like, okay, it's C-A-T. And he
Uh-huh.
said, you have another person, and it's, how do you spell cat? And he says, K-A-T. He said, then you have the third person, you say, how do you spell cat? And he's like, X-Y-W. And he's like, you mean to tell me the last two people are equally as wrong, even though the person that spelled cat with the K-A-T, you see what I'm saying? Is
Right.
pronounced the exact same. So I think that mental rewiring is something that, I think that's like the foundation of everything, you know what I'm saying, before you even get started. And I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration. You know what I'm
So you're
saying?
talking about when you like go into like adulthood, 18, 19, 20, you're saying
Mhm.
like it's tough to transition into like business or your passion because of
Depending on
that
where
growth.
you've been. Yeah, depending on where you've been before. If you have like parents that might have started businesses, I think they sometimes they will teach you the ropes. I still think you're gonna have to take some chances. You're gonna have to go out there and learn. But
Yep.
I think that the way you respond to certain things will make it easier for you to transition, which is why I always tell people like it's not people, you hear people say like they don't have the access to the same resources and stuff like
Yeah.
that. This is partially true, but the way the words that the words that you're telling me right now is just the mental rewiring right then and there. Like I've
Right.
talked to people before,
Yep.
we don't have access to the same resources. You're
To think
already behind.
to think
Yeah.
in that way, you're right. Something is
Hmm.
already off there because we have more than enough. There is an abundance of resources around us. I don't care
Hmm.
where you live, whether you live in like a small village over in Africa that nobody ever heard of. If you have access to Google, it's too late. There's no more
That's true.
excuses for
And
you.
that's why I say, if this was like the 70s, the 80s,
Yeah.
possibly you could get away with that.
Yeah.
But now, if you can get you a cell phone, you
Yep.
can literally get, what I'm saying, anything, access to most things. But like I said, you addressing your question, if you don't have that guidance mechanism, if you didn't have that person to teach you how to think, I
Yeah.
think that it makes it harder, a little bit more difficult for you to navigate the way. Yeah, I do think it makes it a little bit more difficult.
So did you have like that person that you could like ask questions or had that guidance for you?
Uh,
My
I think my
mentors was
journey.
digital. I wouldn't say I had that physical person that who was a go-to for me. I
I
had
think
more
so
so
too.
digital mentors. Like I
I
would
think
run
I would
into
say the
Bob
same.
Proctor and
Hmm.
Les Brown
Bob
and guys
Proctor.
like
Yep.
Tony Robbins. They were my mentors for a long time, dude. Like,
So for me, I think for me, I'm a very big deep thinker.
mhm,
So I've always, they say entrepreneurs they don't fit in most of the time with everybody as well as everybody. And I think one of my skills is like leadership. And I think that
yep,
sometimes when you are a leader, it makes it a little bit more difficult for you to, you see what I'm
yep,
saying? So
yep,
for me, I had to start, questioning like, hey man, why do I, what I'm saying, why do I not see things the same way? Like, I don't think that I was raised to think that, anything is possible. I mean, I think I
mhm.
was raised to think anything was possible, but I wasn't raised by entrepreneurs. You see what I'm saying?
There you
So,
go. I like
you
that.
know what I'm saying? That kind of anything is possible. Like
Right.
the lawyer, doctor, I can go to school, I can get a degree, anything is
Stuff
possible.
like
It's
that. Yeah.
completely different than, what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I can go from no money in the middle of a park to going into a fitness facility, you know what I'm saying? That kind of anything is impossible.
Right.
Like I think the best way to explain it is what I can see anything is possible versus what I can think and believe anything is possible. And I
Absolutely.
always had this mental wiring, and I feel like it was like pulling against each other because I always was taught to see things before I believe it. But I think I always have been a deep thinker, so I've always
Right.
thought, okay, what what I'm saying? I'm thinking my way through this. And I think sometimes when people start entrepreneurship, when they start different things, oftentimes those are people that do have a little bit of faith or they have a little bit of belief. You know what I'm saying? They can see
Yeah.
things with their minds. So for me, what I think got me to be able to see it was just going through life a little bit, learning a little bit about
Hmm.
myself,
Hmm.
understanding that there are contradictions. You know what I'm saying? Being a
Yep.
leader is going to contradict sometimes you connecting with people that don't
Yep.
think the same way as you. Like I said, that need to see things versus as a leader, you know what I'm saying? Gary Vee says not everybody's meant to be a leader. If you're the number
True.
one man in your company, if
Right.
everything's about to fall down, you can't turn around like, okay, what do we do? You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? You have to be able to, you know what I'm saying? So that's the contradiction. So it makes it harder for you to fit in sometimes unless you're fitting in with other leaders, people that see things the same way as you, which is where you have masterminds, you know what I'm saying, where you
Yep.
let some of that steam out. So yeah.
Man, dude, yeah. I mean, you just said it there. Like, it's like you said, having that mindset to even like be okay with all the scrutiny at the end of the day, because I work with people
Mindset
who
for
are
sure.
like in that employee mindset, and I hear them like complaining every single day. Like, they complain about this or they complain about that, and I just think to myself, man, if you really knew how challenging it was to operate this business, would you still be complaining? And I
Mm-hmm.
get that, because it's like, they call human beings apex predator, right? So when you look at like lions, right, would lions really be able to function if it was more prey out there, or if it was less prey out there and more of them? So I think nature creates a balance like that on purpose. Like, it's a certain amount of lions, but we have to give them an abundance of prey for them to perpetuate their existence.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the same thing with entrepreneurs, and business-minded people and employee-minded people. I think that nature just created a healthy balance of those who are, willing to step up, and those who rather take a backseat. You know what I mean? Do you think that the way it is just how it's supposed to be, or should we advocate more people to
So
own
what
that?
I think is, I think I do want to address that too, because I don't want to lose some people. We might lose some people, but I'm not trying to offend any employee. But to answer your question, I
Hmm.
do think things are changing. I don't think everybody is a leader, yes. Uh, as to what level, that's questionable. But I think the best thing about the way things are shifting today is a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, where you have these older companies where you had one guy at the top and you had everybody else at the bottom of the food chain.
Right.
I think things are shifting to where entrepreneurs, you see what I'm saying? You might not necessarily be an
Yes, sir.
entrepreneur, but you are a leader that if you're that number one guy and things are, you know what I'm saying, going array, you might have another person that could tell you, this is what I think we should do. Now, I didn't start the company. I didn't go out. I didn't take the risk that you have, but I
Yeah.
do have the mental focus. I do have, you know
Exactly.
what I'm saying? I am as overzealous as most people like to say about it as you. And I want to
Exactly.
go out and dominate. I want to go out and be in more than one state. I want, you know what I'm saying? I want to make a
Yep.
change. And I don't know if you know Seth Godin.
Seth Golden. Yep.
Yep, so tribes, the book that he talks about, basically he's
Hmm.
talking about tribes and how you're taking initiative. That I think that mindset. I don't think everybody's meant to be a leader at the same level, but I do think, just like dang, what's that? John Maxwell. He says that there are not enough. I don't think you can ever have enough leaders. Not
Right.
everybody can be the number one man, but if you
Right.
have a person that is the number one man and he has five people behind him that are
Mm.
entrepreneurs and leaders within their own sense, meaning I'm in a digital marketing department. We're going to be the best digital marketing department for this company. I'm in the accounting department. We're going to make sure everything is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you have each department that's handling their own.
Like it's their own. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in that sense, you do have to have a number one man, but no, we don't. I don't think we have nowhere near enough leaders because everybody. And I think that it comes back to that mental rewind. You're looking for somebody to tell you what to do instead of going out and initiating. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I know some people that have businesses that I know around here, they say that we are not a perfectionist, type of organization. Take action first. And then, you know what I'm saying? So you always want to be able to initiate.
Right.
And of course, you're looking for, I think sometimes we can also get confused as to if we're always initiating, do we ever look for help? Do we ever look for guidance? Do we ever look for knowledge? And it's like,
Right.
yes, you have to know the healthy balance, though. You know what I'm saying? You have to know who to look for knowledge with.
Hmm.
And you also have to know basically that, like you were saying earlier, the world works like a machine. Like it's not
Hmm.
like the world is just going to do something to you. If you do something to the world, it's going to do something to you, of course, because it's reacting to what you did, which
Reaction.
means that
Exactly.
you're going to get that feedback loop based off of if you have acquired enough knowledge to make this happen.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people think it's just like, and I think that false belief of, you know what I'm saying, all these companies laying off people, I think that structures your brain to start to think, oh, okay, well, something had just happened to me without me having control over it. But no, it's
Right.
like, you see what I'm saying? It's like you
Yeah.
put yourself in that position for that to happen.
Right.
And let's say if you were an employee, like I said, I don't hate on them, but if you were an
At all.
employee and you were under a company and you're like, okay, I see other companies being laid off. I'm
Hmm.
going to start to stash away some money and start another business on the side or some kind of other opportunity for myself, right?
Hmm.
Then they lay you off. All of a sudden you pivot, and then you're not thinking the exact same way. You're not thinking, okay, they did this to me, and now I'm sitting here, I have nothing. you're thinking to yourself now, okay, I have, you know what I'm saying? So it's a different
Right.
mindset, thinking about initiating versus reacting.
For real. And that's interesting what you said, about like, the way you can see like stuff happening over in other companies, and it just kind of almost scares you in a way. But like you said, I feel like this is why branding is so important in 2019, because I read by like 2030, over 70 million US jobs are going to be automated. The machines will take over. So I feel like this is the best possible time for people to start building their personal brands. Whoever you are, whatever you believe in, if that's Pokemon cards, if it's Yu-Gi-Oh cards, if you like slime, if you like to talk about sports, whatever your thing is, I think you need to really start building that personal brand right now, today, to give you leverage in 10 years, when it's harder to find a job and it's harder to get accepted for certain roles. You have this digital brand that's speaking for itself, right? So like, when people type in your name, they already know who you are, or they see you have a following, they see you have a community, and now they have to approach you different. You know what I mean?
True.
So I think right now this is the best time to be, focused on building that brand outside of your 9 to 5.
So for somebody watching this and they say I'm an old school person, I just want to build a business, but I don't want to be known. Because I met plenty of people like that too. That's just kind of
Yeah.
like, man, I just want to be this dude, just built the business and I do my own thing. I don't want to be known. What do you what do you think on that? Can they do that without having a personal brand, or?
Well, what they could do is take the Russell Brand approach, right? So the guy who created ClickFunnels, he talked about the fact, if you don't want to be the face of the brand, then you can allow somebody else to be the face of your brand. So
Like
you can
stuff
hire
like
another brand avatar, but you need some type of human being who has a backstory that the people can relate to, and they can kind of associate, their lifestyle to that person. So for instance, Subway had Jared, right? I don't know how real the story was, but Jared supposedly, used to be this overweight guy, started eating subs, and started living a healthier lifestyle. Don't know how true the story was, but that was the backstory of this character. So that's what you do when you create a business avatar. You give that character kind of like a backstory that people can relate to. And so, like, if you're an old school person and you don't want to do these things and you don't want to be the face of it and you don't think you want to be on a podcast, and you can hire a millennial, somebody who loves that space to expand more in your industry. You know what I mean? So like, if you like baking cakes, then hire somebody who can talk about recipes,
with your final
flavors
product,
of the week, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But there's ways around that if you don't want to be the face of it.
For those of y'all watching this too that want the link to that book, it's .com secrets. It talks about
.com secrets.
.com secrets.
Really, really good.
That avatar and Subway pretty much creating that character brand or putting a anime character, something like that, animated character. You know what I'm saying? So people can see that. So okay, personal branding, but you think that no matter what, so now that you said that, personal branding is nothing different. It's not really new.
Right.
I think that people are thinking it's new, like it's the new way to go. But
no,
Subway's been around for a long, so it's
been here since the beginning of time. Like, how did guys like Ben Franklin, or just some of the most popular names in history, how did they rise above the masses? They had personal brands,
and I think that's an interesting way to talk about it, because I think that also creates abundance on how big the world, because a lot of people don't realize how big the world is and how many people that have done the exact same thing are out there, but you only know of a couple. And I think that's what creates that scarcity. I even had that before. Like I used to think like, until I actually got out here and I'm starting to see like, and I think what is creating a little bit of abundance, if you're in the game, if you're actually looking, is social media. Like, and I think that's what's kind of changing the name or changing somewhat of the meaning of personal branding, is because back in the day, if you had money, you could play. And now it's just
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's just like you have access to your phone, to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I guess now is, I know this woman, her son got 3.6 million followers on TikTok. So it's just like, now everybody can create a personal brand. So it's like, if you're not getting in the game, if you're not, participating, it's going to be very hard for you to. Because I don't know what do you think the next thing is? It used to be harder. You used to have to have money. Now you got to have access. What do you think the next thing is?
So I'm gonna make sure I get to that. I didn't want to get too far from what I wanted to talk about. You had mentioned several names earlier in this conversation, right? You asked me if I heard of one guy. I don't remember his name. You asked me if I heard of a couple of people, and my response was, no, I never heard of him. I think that's just amazing how like they've been able to reach you and impact you, and I've never even heard of them. but they're probably known by millions of people. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think for every confident person who has an opinion, there's a million people who will agree
They
with you
want to watch. Yes.
if you're
Yeah.
willing to
And you
put it
don't
out
even need
there.
a million people. You need
You don't need
probably, yeah. You probably need like
10%.
business-wise 500, maybe if that. You know what I'm
That's,
saying?
hey,
Yeah.
look,
So
that's it. You
yeah,
don't
and
even
that's
need to be
that's
known.
why, and I think that's what ties into leaders creating leaders. That's why I always tell people in the personal training space, man, we need more leaders. We need more
Right.
trainers. Like, why are these trainers just in business to get transformations for themselves? Like, why are we
Exactly.
not? This if I can only reach and give, because in the personal training space, truth be told, just like any industry, I'm being transparent. You're gonna have a top percentage of people that gets results. And when I say results, it's results that the media shows, which is like
Yep.
I was 100 pounds overweight and then I lost weight.
Yep.
That's not the only form of results, because a person that, you know what I'm saying, they improve their, cholesterol levels, other things that are going to
Right.
help. But in this industry, that's what most people need to, like I was saying, see. They need to see it to believe it, to believe that, you know what I'm saying. So for one person to transform 20 lives has no impact on 5 people transforming 100 lives. And then of those 5 people, they take 5 people out of their crew, and then those 5 people turn to trainers, and then they impact 20. You see what I'm saying? That's why I look at things like that kind of machine, like this multiplied effect. One person turns into 20, 5 people turns into 100. And it just keeps
Each
going and
one
going
teach
and
one.
going. And it's just like this in any business, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and you ask, you also ask like what's next from here, like as far as like the personal branding thing, because it's I think you're not gonna be able to really commoditize it that easily, like you're not just gonna be able to, let me go online and let me just create this brand. Like it's gonna obviously get more challenging as more
you gotta
people
have some
figure this
skills.
thing out. But I think one thing that will always win, and this is why I love Gary Vee, man, because he taught me this. One thing that will always win is giving value first and having zero
True.
expectations.
True.
So that's my focus. Because I know it's a lot of people out here trying to grow personal brands, but how many people are out here trying to give as much as I'm trying to give? That's the
And y'all,
only thing
that
I can
ties
control.
back. That ties back to what we said. Mindset shift. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That ties back to what he was saying at the beginning of the video,
Yep.
selfishness. You have to shift that. And it's and a book that will help you to do this. I think you can leverage this partially through books and through experience. But a book that I recommend you guys read is The Go Giver. And that's basically about it. Basically, it could shift your mindset as to what you believe as far as
Yep.
giving value before you take something in return. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if some of y'all watching this have always heard of things like, people that are in business are only there to just take your money. I think that is an exchange of value to be able to deliver the best product or service to you. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many people have this mental rewiring that, and I think especially, I got to touch on this, especially in the African American and sometimes minority communities. I don't know how it is up there in Detroit, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have these mental rewiring that allows us to keep. I think it does keep us back, but it's us keeping ourselves back. I think
Right.
by a mindset shift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, bro. You just hit it right on the nose. Like you said, that it all really ties in together as far as like what you believe, because before I had the give first mindset, I wanted to take from people. Like I built me a website. I was, trying to like sell products. I was doing life coaching. I was teaching forex trading, and then I had the price tag right there. It's like,
Like
yo,
an
give me
ego
money,
stroke.
give me
Yeah.
money. But like my whole, I don't even know when it actually clicked. But I decided that, like, even if I never get my returns, it doesn't matter, because it's about the funeral at the end of the day. We all getting up out of here. So what is your funeral gonna look like when that day comes? You know what I mean? What is your legacy? What's gonna be the story told about you? And if I spent all of my time giving, then shit, I think the rest gonna take care of itself, man.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I got people to this day that, you know what I'm saying, I still think about the stuff that they impacted me, the tools that they gave me to pretty much help me. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like I think it usually, my story personally for me, I started out with a sense of, I say cockiness a little bit, because I was pretty confident in myself, overly
Yeah.
confident. And I think that I had intentions to help. I did have intentions to help, but like I said, that mental rewiring, I was kind of like, okay, so what about me? How can I, you know what I'm saying? And that's why when I started backing up and looking at the fitness industry instead of looking at it as me in it, I
Mm-hmm.
started being like, yo, that's what's holding people back. You either have trainers that want to make more money, or you have
Yep.
trainers that want to have an ego stroke about how many transformations they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started looking at bigger brands, and I'm kind of like, okay, so this person that started this, because I think most people, if they come from a middle or lower class family, you might ask certain questions, and then people say, your parents might ask, oh, well, they always been like that. Or they probably came from people with money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I told you, I've always been a person that I didn't need to see it. I wanted to dig into it. I wanted to think about it. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, well, let me look up, the person that started Burn Boot Camp, Fit Body Boot Camp, Goals. You know what I'm saying? These different, where did they start at? Because I've always been told that these people started these businesses came from opportunity and money, but is this true? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you start to think differently. Okay, so let me Google, let me see, because they might have started out with limited resources like me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to find out that they had the same struggles. Like, you know what I'm saying? This guy started out in the parking lot, and he decided that he wanted to grow it. He got to a certain point, but then he had to make his mindset shift too. And I'm actually telling you, this is really what I found out. Like, he had a struggle because he had to start thinking a little bit differently. Okay, this isn't about me anymore. And I think that, like I said, if people could understand that you're not unique, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're unique. Yes, you have a purpose here on this earth, but the way you're going to bring that purpose out is that process is not unique within itself.
Right. There you go. For sure.
Yeah.
And I like it. And it reminds me, like you said, like, just the point where that switch get flipped, like where it actually happens for you. Like, I think it's like, just a matter of like hitting your head enough times to realize what mistakes you're making. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you did your Google researches and you realized these guys were like literally in the same boat as you, literally ran into the same walls and had to come up with something to figure it out. So, yeah, man, I totally agree.
Just to tie on that, even if a person did start out with money, you have to understand that you have to also, I think, like, people don't understand, you have to know what to do with that money, or that money just gets lost. Like, do you know who Billy Jean is?
Yeah, I know who Billy Jean is. The best marketer out right now.
You ever heard that he talked about, he said, his story's crazy too. He's talking about how basically his friend's mom sold a house or something like that, and then they had got like a lump sum of like money. So he was just like, yo, you think I could borrow 30 grand? And his friend gave it to him. I don't know if this is true or not, but he said his friend gave it to him. And he said, I think it is true, but he said when he got the money, he hit up somebody and they said, well, how much is this website worth? You know what I'm saying? And then he said that the dude was just like, it's worth $27,000 or something like that. Something that's crazy. The dude, he did a amount of money. So he paid $27,000. Then to find out, I think like years later, it was only like $455. So he got scared. He was just like that ambitious dude.
Yeah.
But that's just to tie on. Like, you have to know what to do with the money. Like 27,000, 30,000. He could have easily multiplied that. You know what I'm saying? But you didn't know what to do with the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it all comes back to how do you think? How do you, like Patrick?
There's big $1 million companies out here that don't know what to do with the money.
Like, because they don't understand the new name of the game.
Like why not Fashion Nova, but like Forever 21. Like, why the hell were they investing money, millions of dollars, opening up other retail stores? That's not a good thing to do with money right now, unless you're about to revolutionize the whole retail experience. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're talking about with the online world. I also
want to ask, like, do you think that fear of like not having enough time is what get to people? Like, because before I had that mindset shift of wanting to give, I had the fear of like, not being successful quick enough. Like, man, I need this to happen by the end of the year, man, so I can show everybody and I can just prove to everybody. But now that I'm in the mindset that I'm going to be here for 100 years, by me accepting that and that being my mindset, I can slow down. I don't have to speed this process. I can run my marathon instead of sprinting.
I think that you saying, do I think that fear of not being successful in a amount of time hurts people?
Do you think like the fear of just immortality is what get to people? Like, I'm not going to be here that long, so I need this to happen today.
I think that that's that way for the people that are entrepreneurial. I think it does start out like that, because you do what like everybody says. You know what I'm saying? I want to have X amount of money by this age.
Or this year, right? Yeah.
But I think for people that, like I said, in the employee mindset, it's the complete opposite. I think fear is not how fast can I get there, but I can't get there. Like, I'm not even gonna take the first step.
Oh, just can't even get there at all.
And I really do think that, because I've talked to people before. I've been in rooms before arguing with groups of people because they all saying the exact same thing. And for me, like I said, it has never made sense to me, and it still don't make sense to me. I still don't understand why I think like this, but it has never made sense to me for you to agree with a lot of people. Not a lot of people. There should be some people that you should agree with, but not a lot of people. Like these generic things, like, it's always been this way, or you know what I'm saying? Like the generic, it doesn't make sense for me to agree with a lot of people. Not saying I'm just going to be disagreeing with everybody I come in contact with, but we should have our unique ways of seeing things. It shouldn't
For
be
sure.
that, you know what I'm saying, if I say that I want to do something, five people's response is, well, what if you go out and get a flat tire? You know what I'm saying? Like, or, you know what I'm saying? These different things that can happen. And even with the whole college thing, I don't downplay college, but for me, I was just like, I remember when we were sitting in the auditorium one time, it was like 60 of us. And I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, I'm one of 60 people, and we're all watching the exact same thing. Like, that's
Hmm.
60 people that are coming out thinking the exact same way. And I like my mom. My mom always plays devil's advocate, and I like that she does that because she told me that that doesn't mean that 60 people are coming out thinking the exact same way, because people are going to do their different thing. I'm one of those people that probably did a different route. And there's probably a couple other people, but to make a long story short, like I said, it's never made sense to me. Like, if I'm sitting somewhere and there's too many people doing the exact same thing, I'm
Hmm.
kind of like, all right, well, and I think that comes down to leadership. I think it comes down to leadership. And I had to understand that myself. I don't want to downplay anybody, but that's why I had to understand how I think. I think that
Yeah.
comes down to leadership, because I think as a leader, you're not going to be thinking like, sometimes, some people rush to packs to be able to do what other people are doing.
Right.
Phone's going down. Rush the packs to be able to do what other people are doing. I've always thought a little bit differently about that. I haven't always liked that. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And like I said, it took me time to understand why I thought like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, man. Like I said, like I just wanted to, just develop a level of patience,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Like, as much as we throw that word around, I don't think people really look at this, because
Yeah.
if you knew that you was gonna live a 200-year life, like if you
Mm-hmm.
knew you was gonna live long enough to be 200 years old, then maybe you would feel like, being successful is possible, because you have more time to accomplish it. But like that's my fear of, like, this, this millennial mindset that most people have now, like the
How,
microwave
how old are you,
society
Cordele?
that we're in. I just want people to start thinking just more long term, thinking more like 30-year terms, like
Mm-hmm.
and 10, at least 10 years.
That's
You
what's
know what
gonna
I
make the
mean? Like,
most success too. But how old are you?
I'm 26.
You're 26. Okay, so we around the same age. I'm 25. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
25. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, that thinking long term is what makes I think that's what it makes you operate and do things differently too. It makes you
Hmm.
operate and do things differently because you're not thinking like, what I'm saying? And I always tell people, if you can't think past the weekend, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Because
man,
most people can't
dude,
think past the weekend.
a
Go
lot of
ahead.
people are stuck in that Friday mindset, like
Mm-hmm.
TGIF. Like
Mm-hmm.
like a day is a day. First of all, a day is man-made, and that's what people need to understand. Like, a Friday is not Friday. It's like, it's just you're
Yeah.
just alive. Like, you're here. So
Yeah.
once you can
That's
get out
true.
of that mindset and break all of that and realize every day that you wake up is another chance to get back to your grind and do what you do and impact the world. Certain days don't matter no more. Like, I don't care what day it is. Like, I'm gonna do what I do and do what my purpose is, and continue to follow that path. Like, so yeah, I think a lot of people really have to get out of that though. Like, and
And
so
like I
like,
said,
go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's easier too if you like reverse engineer the process. So I'm not sure if you ever read The One Thing by Gary Keller.
I have. Yeah.
Phenomenal, and he broke it down from the domino standpoint. Like, you want to begin with the end in mind. Figure out what is your ultimate one day goal, and based off that one day goal, what's one thing you can do in the next 5 years to make sure you're on track to do that, and you break it down from there. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think we need to just, we need to think
Mm-hmm.
about what we want the end to look like. Like, if you want your life to look a certain way at 70, what do it have to look like at 60?
True.
And if you want it to look like that at 60, what do it have to look like at 50? So, we break it down from there. Us being 26, we need to be thinking about what we want our 30s to look like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And y'all, like, I hope y'all are still white. If you're still watching this, like, I think that we're not coming to y'all as people that's like already made it, but I do think that you have to understand, and I'm starting to understand too, success. I think that you have to learn to think differently and not just in like a macro sense, but a micro sense. Like he was just talking about the one thing, like instead of thinking, okay, I'm looking at the tower, I'm looking at where I'm at now, and basically instead of thinking, okay, I can't build this tower, how can I do things on a day-to-day basis? Like
Hmm.
for me, I knew that I want to franchise my business. So I had to understand, like, okay, well, if you want to franchise, you better be opening it up 2 more locations to test your
Right.
system to
Right.
see, you know what I'm saying, if you're not there, will it work? will still deliver value. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Is just the you thing? Is this just your talent and skill that's producing this result, or is it something that do we really have something here? So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, learning to think differently about, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, like I said, all successful people are people on the route to being where they want to be, think the
Hmm.
exact same way as far as like, okay, I'm gonna process this is to I begin with the end in mind. I was telling somebody the other day because I talk to people sometimes, they're like, well, why don't you just do this? And I'm kind of like, I used to just execute, but now I start to think, okay, what's the purpose of this? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you begin with the end in mind with everything you do. And I think it can kind
Exactly.
of make it hard for people to think like that because they start thinking, oh, where's the fun in life? But it's not really where's the fun in life, because I think that you can still have fun. It's just a different way of life.
It is. It is. It's a different way of life. And so, like, I remember actually talking to a coworker of mine. We talked about the fact that you mentioned entrepreneurship. And I believe that, as an entrepreneur working within someone else's business, you still have to carry yourself like a business person. Like, it doesn't matter that you're working within someone else's organization, but because that is your business. Like, the
Sure.
time that you wake up, you deciding to get to work on time. If you're somebody who still work, if you decide to get to work on time is a reflection of your business as an individual person. So like the way that you structure your lifestyle from here on out is your business. Literally, it's your path to the top. Like your journey to success. Every little thing
Sure.
that you do, the hours that you wake up, the hours that you put in. And so like you said, you can have fun. I truly enjoy the fact that we get the chance to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Like
Like
this
Les
is
Brown said, he said if you work hard, your life will be easy. If you don't, your life will be hard. I mean, yeah, it's
exactly.
so yeah. What my battery's running low, but we probably going to do a part two or something, man. We got some good value, but if there's one thing that you could leave for people, like what's one thing you would tell people if they're looking to get into entrepreneurship, if they're looking to start a business right now, but they don't know how? What's one thing you would tell them?
Well, man, watch who you listen to. Um, for me, and this is just me, being humble. Gary Vee was that final person who like really like helped me flip that switch. And so I was grateful that I had the chance to actually take in his wisdom and hear what he had to say. And it's like you said, you can't learn everything from one person because somebody's going to
True.
give you a different angle that the other person didn't quite see. But start to monitor who you listen to and the content that you take in, because it's going to really, really dictate your mindset moving forward. And that's one thing I would say to anybody looking to get in the business. It's all about the mindset that you carry. So watch the content that you consume and who you listen to.
100%, 100%. So where can they find you if they want to find you on social media?
So they can find me at Cordele Rocks, Cordele, last name Rocks, ROCKS. I'm pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, all those spots they can find me.
Cool deal. Well, I hope y'all appreciate this video, man. We went, it's almost an hour, but yeah, we most definitely want to give you guys a little bit of value because, like I said, the business journey is not an easy one, but it is one that can be done. So
It could be done.
yeah. So all right, y'all. Peace out.
Thanks again.
I'll take a picture.
That was dope.